Hey, it's been 2 long weeks since we had our last episode of Weekly Roundup. My name is Frankie.
And I'm Ryan from the Coffee Break.
Yeah, and as usual, without the coffee break, we wouldn't have this Weekly Roundup. They summarize all the weekly juicy news for us and concise it into an email and send it to your inbox every weekday from Monday to Fridays.
If you want to be smarter, remember to subscribe in the link below. So, Frankie, what's the news for this week? Or for the past 2 weeks, rather?
There's something exciting to share about the US market. But before I go into that, right, do you know how the FBM KLCI works in Malaysia?
It takes, I think, a basket of stocks in the market, in the KLCI market, and then take a group of stocks and, product sum them or so, like find their weightage.
Correct.
And see how it prices the market, or direction of the market, rather.
Correct. So basically, that's how it works. It gathers around the top 30 companies that are the largest market cap on the exchange and group it together and make it into like a proxy of the entire stock exchange. That's how the KLCI index work. But what happened is that every 6 months, June and December to be specific, Bursa Malaysia will conduct a review to see if there's any stocks below the top 30 grow in terms of their market cap and they are eligible to be included into the index. And then they will find the lowest market cap one and then it will be excluded. This exercise is done on a semi-annual basis. So the point I want to make here is that the KLCI index is market cap weighted index. So the bigger the market cap, like for example, Maybank is very big, right?
Biggest,
so it will have a bigger weightage in the KLCI index.
So if Maybank share price drops or increases,
it will affect the KLCI index by a fair bit.
Because of the weightage lah.
Because of the weightage of Maybank in the index. Now comes back to my story, which is the US market. So I'm sure you know that the US market has 3 main indices, right? The Dow Jones, S&P 500 and Nasdaq. Nasdaq is quite straightforward. It is the tech index per se, right?
So your Meta, Alphabet, Apple, Microsoft.
Correct. But what's a little bit more confusing to some of the investors out there is that why do you have Dow Jones Index and S&P 500? And sometimes the same company can appear on both indices. And what do they actually mean?
Is it for speculation or...
Okay. So to give some background, right, the Dow Jones is actually the original index, the original US stock market, which was founded in 1869, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a very old index. And S&P 500 only came around the 1950s. And the major difference between these two indices is that Dow Jones Index is a price-weighted index.
Okay.
So it's different from KLCI. KLCI is a market cap weighted index.
Yep.
For Dow Jones, it's different. It's price weighted index, which means to say if a stock price is very high.
Stocks like Apple.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, Apple stock that you mentioned just now. The price is roughly around 180 bucks per share compared to another constituent stock, let's say Pfizer. Pfizer is only about
$27.
$27. So in the case of Dow Jones Index, Apple's weightage on the index would be much higher compared to Pfizer, simply because Apple price is a lot higher. So that's how Dow Jones Index calculate its weightage. Whereas S&P 500, it follows somewhat like the Malaysian kind of concept where it follows market cap. So that's the main differences between the two indices. But why I'm bringing out this story today is because unlike in Malaysia where the indices are being reviewed on a semi-annual basis, the US stock market is a little bit different. They review it on an as-needed basis. So when a group of committee members, they call it the keepers, they feel that there's a need to review the index, then they'll do it. And the interesting thing is that they are slated to do some adjustment to the Dow Jones Index this month.
Okay.
And that is because Walmart, which is the number 17 most heavy stock on the Dow Jones Index, is slated to do a 3-for-1 share split on the 26th of February. So what this means is that Walmart is going to take 1 share and split it into 3. So obviously the share price is going to go down.
Divide by 3 lah.
Divide by 3 lah. So it is going to lose 2/3 on its nominal value.
Yep.
So because of that, the weightage of Walmart on Dow Jones Index is going to drop.
So that would actually impact the index. So what they are doing is trying to minimize the impact to the index.
Correct.
While allowing or not say allowing, because a company then decides whether they want to do share splits or not, right? I just taking into consideration that just to maintain that high figure, that 30,000 figure,
Yes.
right? It doesn't need to. Okay.
Yeah, correct. So Dow Jones Index constitute of top 30 shares.
Yep.
And these top 30 shares represent their respective industries. So Walmart is considered a consumer staple business. So it is being included as a consumer staple company. So when their share price is down by 2/3 in terms of the share price,
Okay.
the weightage of consumer staple sector in the index will also go down. So some people will start to think, hey, so does it mean that consumer staple sector in the US is not so important anymore?
But it's not lah.
It's not. The main reason is because to begin with, the consumer staple sector only have 7% weightage on the Dow Jones Index. So a 7% weightage, if you go down by a little bit, and there are also other constituent stocks within the sector itself, so the impact is not so great. Just to give you some example, right? The IT sector has a 19.7% weighting on the Dow Jones Index. So if anything changes within the IT sector, the impact will be much higher in that sense.
Even lah, because tech sector is, the price valuation is just,
Yeah, correct. So the last time that something happened in the market that resulted in the Dow Jones Index to change in terms of the weightage was sometime around 2020, when Apple decided to do a 4-for-1 share split.
Okay. So every time there is exercises where they do share split, or even share consolidation for that matter, the price weighted average then could change very drastically.
Yes,
right?
Correct. But the funny thing is, unlike in Malaysia where they outright tell you that they are going to review every 6 months and it is in June and December, right? The Dow Jones keepers, they are famous for being tight-lipped. So they don't tell you when, they don't tell you what kind of changes that they will make. But there are speculation that because of this Walmart issue, right, the keepers may actually take this opportunity to also do some other changes as well. But what kind of change, we don't really know because it's sort of like top secret and stuff. So yeah, we just need to wait for the announcement on the 26th of February.
Talk about investment. What do you think the darling of 2024 will be? I know we are 2 months in.
It is still probably the Magnificent Seven, I suppose.
So like your Apple,
Apple, Alphabet, NVIDIA, that kind of stuff. Right?
NVIDIA. So
NVIDIA, okay.
NVIDIA is, I think it's going to be the next big thing, next darling. This is not financial advice, by the way. So giant chip maker NVIDIA share price actually overtook the market cap of Alphabet a day right after surpassing the value of Amazon, right? So the share price has been on a scorching rally, up 49% at year to date at one point, so adding 600 over billion to its market cap.
This year alone, you are saying?
This year alone.
So we are just in the 3rd week of February right now.
Yep.
So within 4, 5, 6, within 7 weeks, the share price has gone up by 49%.
Yep.
Wow.
So now it is the world's 4th most valuable company behind Saudi Aramco, Microsoft and Apple. And in its recent regulatory filing, NVIDIA actually disclosed stakes of nearly $230 million in SoftBank's arm, which it tried to acquire back in 2020. Right, so NVIDIA tried to acquire ARM in 2020 for about 40 billion, but it fell through. The deal fell through because of regulatory pressure. When you have so many big players owning a few chip makers, it poses a threat to the industry, right? So
yeah, recently NVIDIA also announced that they actually have investments in, like what you mentioned just now, SoftBank's arm. They also have investment in SoundHound, a biotech company called Recursion Pharmaceuticals. When they did that disclosure, all these stocks, they just went all the way up on that day itself, which is crazy.
SoundHound, I think, is still okay because AI software for audio, right? Yeah. But for pharmaceuticals, we're not sure where that comes into play, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the stakes in ARM, it's 230 million, relatively little, because now the company is worth 125 billion since the last time they wanted to acquire the company. Right. Only 3 times more, not much.
But the biggest shareholder of ARMS is actually SoftBank, right?
It remains to be SoftBank. So talk about SoftBank as well. SoftBank founder Masayoshi Son is actually seeking to raise as much as 100 billion to bankroll a chip venture to compete with NVIDIA and supply semiconductors and essentials for artificial intelligence. I mean, the artificial intelligence game is definitely heating up. We've seen ChatGPT last year. I think that was like the big thing. This year they have gotten Dolly, gotten Midjourney, and they have recently announced Sora.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen Sora? Yeah. Right? That 1 minute text to video generation by OpenAI, and the graphics were
fantastic.
Fantastic.
And they look so real.
Yeah. To a naked eye, to a person like myself, you can't even tell because your focus would then be on the subject. And the background, sometimes, there were horses disappearing, there were funny movements by the humans in the background. But, most people can't filter through all that. They see the main subject, like I remember the one I was watching was the Tokyo lady walking. A lady walking towards Tokyo. Looks real. If you didn't tell me it was AI, I wouldn't have known, right?
Crazy, crazy world. Now, speaking of Japan, they recently reported their GDP number. And after that, because of the weak economic condition in Japan, they actually lose the spot as the third largest economy in the world. They actually lose to Germany. And because of that, I think Japan is trying to fight their way up back to reclaim their throne, right? Well, not throne, but the third spot in the world. And right now, Japan is betting $67 billion to become a global chip powerhouse once again. So in the very snowy place of Hokkaido, right? Japan is pouring this $67 billion into a long shot bet to revive this chip making capabilities over there. And the idea came when China and US is still sort of like fighting in terms of the trade war. So this whole project is actually created by a homegrown venture called Rapidus Corp. So they are looking to mass produce the state-of-art 2 nanometer kind of logic chip by 2027. And they're going to start this project from ground zero.
Well, that's tough.
It's hard.
It's hard because
think about it, TSMC, which has a long history in making chips, and they have plowed in so much money into R&D, right? Today, they're only producing 3 nanometer.
That is Apple's chip, right? Apple A15, is that right?
Yes.
That is, I recall that being 3 nanometer.
Correct. So now you're talking about 2 nanometer, which is 30% smaller than what TSMC can do from ground zero.
That's a tough hill, tough hill to climb.
So by industry standard, it's an impossible challenge for an 18-month-old venture in a country that has fallen far behind overseas and whatnot on this rival on semiconductor production.
But why did they choose Japan though?
So Japan is attractive for a couple of reasons. Number one, obviously, is the location, right? It has highly disciplined workforce and reliable services. I think everyone knows about that. Right? Japanese, they are famous for that. The plunge in Japanese yen makes it super cheap for people to come and invest, right? That's one reason as well. And Japan is also a key global supplier of some of the chemicals and equipments that is needed to produce chips. So those are the key reasons why maybe Japan thinks that they are able to pull this off.
Do you think they'll be able to do so?
I would say 50-50. Why 50-50 is because, number one, I think they are able to do it because of those advantages that they have. Apart from that, it's not like they never done it before. I mean, in the 80s, they were one of the pioneers in terms of technology advancement and all that, right? It's just that they have been stagnant for a while, so they have fallen behind. To reclaim that spot again, I think you just need a little bit of push in order to get there. But the other 50%, which I think it's hard, or rather a big challenge for them to do so, is because the world is not going to stop and wait for you to grow, China is also going to improve, US is also going to improve. And you starting from ground zero, there's a lot of things for you to work on in order to achieve that kind of capabilities. So I think 67 billion, maybe in terms of monetary support-wise is enough, but where do you find the workforce? Right? Where do you find enough construction capacity to quickly build up your supply chain and all that? So all these things remain to be seen.
67 billion is, well, you say it's enough. I think some element of OpenAI a couple of weeks ago also said he needs $5 to $7 trillion. Right? I think there was the news that was floating around, right? That he needed that amount of money to build chips for AI. All right, and that is like 100 times more. All right. But it is hitting up. I think the semiconductor space is hitting up, which is also good for the local economy in Malaysia, because we have a Silicon Valley in Penang.
Right? Maybe they need to do more testing, right? They can send it over to Penang, right? Oh, that's good news for Malaysia.
Talk about good news for Malaysia. This one not really actually. This one is more of our regional news. We talk about Taylor Swift, which is happening this weekend, next weekend in Singapore. All right, so Swifties out there will be very happy. But the Thailand Prime Minister, Srettha Thavisin, actually revealed that the Singapore government apparently paid about 100 million Thai baht per show. Right?
How much is that in ringgit?
That's about
100 million.
13 million ringgit, 13.4 million ringgit per show. So there's 6 shows in total. So they paid almost about 80 million for Taylor Swift to just perform exclusively in Singapore for the Era Tour. Right, because her tour here, there's only Singapore. There is no Manila, there is no Bangkok, there is no Jakarta.
Monopoly.
Exactly, monopoly. In terms of SGD, is about 22.6 million, right? So they read this article, then said, right, an associate professor in Singapore actually estimated that the Coldplay concert in Singapore brought about 96 million tourism dollars to the economy. On an estimation that 30% of the 200,000 concert goers would spend about 1,006 Singapore dollars during their 3-day stay on the island. Right, I think in 2019, an average tourist spent about 1,004. Right, so this professor, okay, notch it up a bit, 1,006. And if you apply the same logic to Taylor Swift's concerts, okay, 6 shows, 55,000 tickets. So they're about 300,000 tickets over the 6 days. If 30% of the 300,000 tickets spend 1,006, that's easily $158 million in additional tourism revenue.
Wow. So you are using 22.6 million Sing dollar to buy the exclusivity, and then you potentially could generate 150 over million.
All these spillover effects.
Oh, not bad, man.
Not
It's
bad.
a good investment.
Definitely worth it. You know, like Singapore is already the concert hub in the region. So you've got Coldplay, Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, right? Thailand is looking to be the next concert hub. So that's why I think the Prime Minister then inquired with the organizer, hey, why is Taylor Swift only performing in Singapore, right? Indonesia has its own sets of race in Bali that I've seen before. Malaysia, what do we have in Malaysia? We have a kill switch button.
People want to come, you ask people to go away. That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Well, yeah, there's no concerts in Malaysia, but our economy is still doing quite okay, right? So in December 2023, Malaysians' unemployment rate remains stable at around 3.3%. So translate into absolute number, about 567,000 people unemployed, which is a slight improvement from November last year, which recorded 569,000 people unemployed. So according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, that's where you get all the statistics about Malaysian economy. They reveal that there's a 0.2% increase in terms of people employed to 16.46 million people.
But why is the unemployment rate? Actually, I think what I'll tell you guys is why are we talking about an unemployment rate? It is important in the sense that actually it's a lagging indicator of economic activity, right? So the
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So because you only employ people when you expect your business to grow, right? So if there are fewer unemployed people, means that business owners are employing more people.
Employ more people for future expansions and stuff like that,
and when they pay salary, where does the salary go? You spend that money, right? People buy cars, the consumption would grow up, right, as a result. So Chief Statistician Dr. Muhammad Uzair Mahidin attributed these figures to the nation's steady economic growth and also ongoing social activities, right? So this year, what are we expecting for Malaysia this year? Are we going to see growth? I think growth expectation is about 4 to 5%, right, in GDP.
I can't remember the number up of my head right now, but yeah, seems right. Yeah, but I think 4 to 5% GDP growth is not too bad for Malaysia in 2024. But what if you are unemployed? Then it's all gloomy and bad, right?
In some ways, unless you are a famous YouTuber lah.
Oh, famous YouTuber. Definitely not us lah. No. For us, it's still a long way to grow. Not yet. But for us, the inspiration comes from a very famous YouTuber called Mr. Beast. I'm not sure if you guys know this guy. Go and check out his channel. His video is very exciting and very engaging.
Also over the top, but
I
love watching it. I can binge on Mr. Beast. You know, and how much does he earn?
I have no idea, man. I only know this guy is very young, like 25 years old or something.
So apparently, he told Time that his business, so he called his YouTube channel a business. So you imagine how big it is, right? Brings in between 600 to 700 million per year.
That's bigger than many Malaysian listed companies' revenue.
Yeah, because every video, right, earns a combination of a couple of million from ads and brand deals, right?
Wow.
And he has got 239 million followers. One of the biggest channels on the platform already.
Fuck sure don't even have 239,000.
Soon.
Still a long way to go.
We will get there.
So if you like our show, please subscribe and share this channel to your friends so that more people get to know about
Help us to become the Mr. Gegasi lah. Oh, Encik Gegasi.
Encik Gegasi. Bagus. Saya suka nama ni.
But having said that, running a YouTube business isn't cheap, right? Because a video that is just 15 minutes long can take up to 12,000 hours of footage, according to Jimmy Donaldson, right?
Wow.
According to Mr. Beast, right? In 2022, he said he spent 8 million a month on videos. And this is in 2022. So if you've seen his recent videos where he reviews islands, you know, what is the difference between 1 million island between 100 million island, right?
Yeah.
I think his videos just got way more ambitious and grand in scale lately. Right?
Yeah. So just for context, right? Most of our videos on Mr. Money TV, FAQ show, or Are We Okay for that matter, our footages is usually around 1 hour to 1.5 hours. And usually after we cut it, the finished product, so what you're watching right now, is around 20 minutes to 40 minutes. So for 1.5 hours footages to cut into 40 minutes or so, it takes roughly 2 to 3 days. Now you're talking about 12,000 hours. I have no idea how much time he need to edit one video. It's definitely going to take a very long time and a lot of manpower to do it. Yeah, so it makes sense that he spent like $8 million a month just to edit videos. Crazy guy.
Crazy indeed. But that is Mr. Beast for you.
Yep.
Okay, so that's all for Weekly Roundup. Thanks, Frankie, for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks to have you back, man. I mean, for the past 2 weeks, we didn't have the weekly roundup. But if you miss any of our episodes, and if you don't like to watch both of our faces, because if we are not handsome enough...
not too bad, wow.
Not too bad. But nonetheless, if you prefer to listen to us rather than to watch us, we are also on Spotify. It's called The FAQ Show. So go check it out and subscribe on Spotify as well. See you guys next week.
Take care.